Hey, so we've had a pretty interesting event here in Genshin Impact. There's only like 2 days left now. It's called the Realm of Tempered Valor. And this one, as a first time, gives a name card for reaching a certain amount of points. Now, we've had some events in the past, at least one that I recall, that gave you a name card after completing the event, but this is the first time that it's actually challenging to get it. So, there's a lot of mixed opinions, and I just wanted to talk about it, because I think this kind of event has a lot of potential, but it wasn't executed all that well. Now, everybody's gonna feel differently about it, and I totally get it. If you wanna share your opinion, feel free to do so in the comments, but I'm just gonna give my own opinion. Also, I've been doing it for a lot of people, and this last week or so I've been dedicating a lot of time on my streams to helping people to try to get this name card. So also through practice, because of that, and going through different accounts, I've gained more experience and I have a bit of a different perspective than most, I would assume, at least. Most people haven't tried to do this in like 20 accounts or something. So yeah, and I'm gonna try to, this Saturday, I'm gonna try to do it again. I mean, no, I'm not gonna try, I'm gonna do it. I guess I'm gonna try to get the name card for more people, but I'm definitely gonna go through a bunch of other accounts because a lot of people have been asking for help. Now, if you wanna do so, you can just join us on Twitch, and it's a pretty cheap redeem. A lot of people want it, so I sadly cannot just do everyone's. It takes a lot of time to do this event. It's a lot of min-maxing depending on the account. Yeah, it's pretty high effort, but I'll quickly go over some of the things you can do in case they help you. And otherwise, you can try to join us at Twitch, and I can help you out. Maybe next time I can dedicate some more time to it. But yeah, right now it was a pretty limited time thing. I think it was like maybe 12 days in total. And here's the name card. On my main account, I only did one, at most like 2-ish runs per each one of them. And I did it first in my main just to try it out. And I ended up getting 21, 22, 20, 21, and 20. Which is nice, don't get me wrong. But I have a day one account I've been playing every day since launch. I can definitely push it and get more. Especially now that I've gone to so many accounts and I know some more strats and I practice more. Now I also have a second account where I'm at 99 out of 100 and I'm hoping I can push it. Because that one I've had abandoned for some more time because it's just pretty time consuming, so I'm just hoping I can make it happen too. And here's the thing. A lot of people have been saying that you cannot do it without Mabuika. And that may be true, to be honest. Mabuika, let's just be honest, she's just the best for this kind of event. It's pretty tailored towards her. Now you can definitely do it with other characters. There's different buffs for each one of them. But overall, you can just basically use Mabuika on all of them. Another really good one is Arlecchino. I have C2 Arlecchino, C2 R1, so... Actually, I didn't activate the second constellation. It's partially to prove a point, to be like, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it just because I have C2. I'm doing it as something a bit more accessible. I got lucky with my pulse, what can I say? I'll probably eventually activate it. So yeah, I haven't... The thing is that I wanted to do more runs on my own account and be like, yeah, you know what, you can do this. With 4 stars only, you can do this with a Scaff Mabuika team, a Scaff Arlecchino team, maybe without team, maybe something else, but honestly, there's no time. I rather do it for other people. I think it's more important for other people to get the name card, or at least they're gonna appreciate it more than just me trying out some things. Now off stream I've been trying to get it on my second account, and thus I've been getting a bit more practice. But overall, yeah, that's how it's looking. Now, what can you do if you don't have the right characters? A lot of time, a lot of dedication. Basically, a lot of min-maxing. There's different strats, and I'm definitely not the best one at this whatsoever. But I do think that there's a lot to do. Now, many people don't know that you can use food. I'm not a huge fan of that, because the cooldowns on the food. Oh, it expired. Oh, now I have to use this one. I have to go collect this and that for that. Like, I don't like that. I get it for Overworld, I guess, but I'm usually not a fan. But I like to make all kinds of foods just for funsies because it's funny. But anyway, the point is that you can use food and you can pre-fire burst. But those two things already change so much everything, because different teams are gonna be better for pre-firing all of the abilities you have, and the setups can be a bit wonky and weird. When you've been playing a team and you know the rotation so well, and you have to change around it because you are literally pre-firing, because most of the content we have around the game that is a bit more challenging, like Abyss, doesn't let you pre-fire. So yeah, it's pretty awkward, but it's also interesting, at least to me. Now, let's go over each floor for a little bit, and then I'll be talking about some other things. Now, for the first one, I'm not even gonna... they have names, sure. First one. This one's the Night Soul Blessing one. Basically, if you do Night Soul damage, you do even more damage. Night Soul characters, so Natlan characters, are gonna be doing a lot of damage on this one. You can check out the monster list and you can change the characters from here. And yeah, it's kind of weird. So you start from like wave 12 and there's a bunch of waves you have to go through. There's only 30 seconds once you start for you to complete it, and depending on how fast you beat it, you can advance more floors. So let's say if you do it in the first 10 seconds, you advance 4 or 5. If it takes longer, if you take 25 seconds out of the 30, you only advance 1 floor. Just so you get an idea. So there's gonna be different enemies on each one of them, and depending on the enemies and what you have, it may be of interest to target one specifically and not just to clear as fast as you can. Another important thing is energy management. Many people don't build like enough ER for the worst case scenario, and it really shows on this kind of event. Even more so because you cannot rotate through all of your characters sometimes, using all of your skills. Sometimes you pre-fire the burst and you don't want to swap back to them. So you're missing out on a lot of that. And if you do it really quick, you're not gonna get that many particles from the enemies, because then again you don't do the skills. So yeah, there's also a buff to get a bit of energy. There's a combat buff that you can get right away after you reach, I think it's floor 15. It shows here, after floor 10 you get the HP buff and the other one, but yeah. So that's how that works, basically, for anyone who's out of the loop. So yeah, it's kind of weird. You can just pre-fire things. A good example of a team where you can pre-fire things would just be with Furina. Furina teams, you can, unfortunately the skill is not gonna hit, so your HP is not gonna be drained, and you start with all of the burst. But let's say Furina, Bennett, Shanglin, and who would be the last one? Actually, let me give you a different one. Furina, Hu Tao, Xianyun, Yelan. You can basically pre-fire all of them and start with Hu Tao right away. Now, you wouldn't get BB, that's the only thing, but you can do things like that where you can pre-fire pretty well. Now, on the other hand, we have characters like Arlecchino, who are great for this kind of event, but you cannot use the skill and mark the enemies and then wait for all of the time for the skill to get charged for like the cross to, unless you have C2, because that's what C2 does. So it can be a bit weird, but you can play around it and it's pretty interesting to do so. And it's not only that, characters that have pretty high front loaded damage, which means that they do a lot of damage really quick in the first few seconds and then it falls off, really benefit from just being played on this event. As it is to be expected, you just gotta be as quick as possible. So, part of the reason why Mabuka is so good on this one. Other characters that are not so good, or other teams that are usually really good, like Nubian Hyperbloom teams, any of those are usually really good. But on this one, not so much. You can definitely make it work, but they're not as good as you would expect. So it's pretty interesting how it kinda has shifted the meta, so to speak, just because of that. The timings are different, what you can pre-fire is different, and the different buffs from each floor also make it different. Now I do think this is fantastic. In itself, it's a really cool concept. It's kind of stressful when it's such a limited time, but it's probably just for me because I want to help so many people. Because many of them feel like they're missing out for not getting the name card, and I get it. I love getting name cards, and I'm trying to get it on my second account too. It can be quite the struggle. And if you only have one account to worry about, it won't be that much. Many people won't worry about min-maxing, and if they cannot get it, it's fine. But many other people will have fun doing that. Just that, it can just be pretty fun, the process. At least I do. I mean, sometimes it can be pretty painful, but the saddest thing is for me to not be able to get it for someone who really wants it. Other than that, you know, I mean, I'm just trying my best and trying to get through it. Now, the thing is that the reward is a name card. Most people are not really. I mean, it's kind of cool as a sign of you going through all of the effort of doing this, or just to show that you had the Mabuka at the right time. To be honest, but. It's pretty cool. It's cool, the concept, but sometimes we don't stop to think about all of those others who would also want the name card. Now, you may be thinking, how should they do it? Well, how they have been doing it for most of the time. Nobody complains about that. You make really hard content and you give like extra mora for reaching those kind of results. You can give like the best rewards for doing the basics, doing a bit of each. Like, I don't know, let's say like 50 points, which is super easy to get, just to get the name card. Just you played it casually, you're having fun playing with your characters and whatnot. But now people are a bit more incentivized to actually be efficient and to try to min-max their builds. And that can be nice. That can be nice in its own way, but some people really don't want that, but want the name card. It's one thing to miss out on a bit of mora, it's one thing to miss out on a set of aesthetics. Just tryhards are usually not gonna care so much about that, just to flex it if anything. And casuals are gonna care more about it because it's just visuals and the kind of thing they will pull for. Maybe I pull for this weapon just because it's spinning, kind of thing. As opposed to being efficient. In my case, it's a mix of both, and in your case, it can be whatever you want it to be. But the thing is that since we've never had something like this, people just go for whatever, and they don't expect that to be an issue. Like, maybe at most I miss a star in Abyss because they release a really hard one, but most of the times that's not really a problem. And I think it is in this case. They could have executed it better if they hadn't made it so... There's a few things that they could have done. How they said that they could just lower the points and get the name card like that. They can just give us maybe even an elixir, some extra artifact potions or something like that for reaching the reaching the highest points you can get. Which I think is pretty fun to aim for. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I just feel it for everybody else who cannot do it so well. Because it's not like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's, oh, I didn't pull for this character. And nobody should be forced to pull for a character. No, then again, you can definitely do it without him. The difference between pulling for one character or another, when it comes to efficiency, sometimes it's just gonna show how much of an investment you have to put into a character for them to perform as well as a different one. And yeah, of course, if you pull Klee, you're gonna have to invest way more than what you would have to invest in if you just pull for Mabuka. Especially in this kind of event. Now, if you're okay with that risk, it's fine. I think this is gonna change the way Genshin players think about things a little bit. I don't think it's necessarily bad, it's just kinda how Mihoyo's doing it, or Hoyoverse, whatever. The same way with the release of theater, everybody was like, oh, I should build more characters of different elements, and now you can see way more accounts with level 70 characters and so on. And I think that's fine. It can also cause issues. It can lead to investment across a bunch of different characters that you don't really want or use without you having the opportunity to invest in the characters you already have that are a bit more solid, that may be able to help you out on a beast or things like this a bit more. But I get it, that's fine too. And I think it's just important for people to know what they are doing and be well informed and do that what you will, because everybody likes to play in a different way. Now, I'm done with all of that rambling. I wanted to go quickly over some other floors. Actually, I guess I could just finish with the first one. The first one, there's some tricks. You can, once you complete stage 15, floor 15 technically it's called, and you can just try to do it above 20 seconds. You go right to 19, and you got the eroding avatars of lava. Those guys, you apply enough pyro to them, and they just instantly die. So with that, you already get platinum. You advance to the next one, you have to complete that one, even if it's out of time, which I do like, actually. It's nice that they did it like that. But that's how that one works. So most people are gonna be using like Beneshangling, Kasu, or something like that, or just a Mobi cutting and make that work, or you can actually get damage. But yeah, Kinish works okay. Malani is also pretty nice for these kind of events because of the same reason, just a lot of front-loaded damage. And for this one, she's pretty good. So yeah, that's the trick behind the first one, to sum it up. Now, for the second one, second phase. What is this one? So for this one, there's a bunch of Hydro Slimes, Mimics, whatever they're called, Hydro-immune enemies, enemies with Hydro Aura. So you don't really want to run any Hydro characters yourself. There's buffs for Melt and Vaporize, or Frozen technically too. So you really want to put all of your chips on that. Bennett Shanglin is what you're gonna be using most of the time. I guess if you have Mawika, you don't need Shanglin, but Bennett Shanglin, with Arlecchino, anything like that. Bennett Shanglin, I really like it with Kasu, because with Kasu you can get them together pretty quick and make it a bit easier for yourself. Bennett Shanglin, Sucrose to Cobastral, or things like that. Maybe you can even go for Gamin and different things, different combinations like that. You would kinda do the same from 15 to 19. You beat those two water blobs, and you go to the next one, and the Xuan 1 beasts are a bit easier to kill, but also pretty annoying because there's so many of them, and sometimes it's just gonna make you float and it's just gonna be awkward. But that's basically that, pretty simple. On one of this kind of floor is the one that's gonna make you do better, for the most part, because it's not so limited to other things like having Natlan characters. It's just a reaction that's inevitably gonna happen. Technically, I guess you can run, I don't know, Nahida, Cookie, Fishol, Songli, run no Hydro, and have a funny Hyper Bloom team or Nilo Bloom team. But things like that, for the most part, are not gonna be the best. Now, something you can do, since you have to get 20 floors on each one of them, and there's 5 stages, 100 in total. You could get more than it goes up to 25, so you could get 21, 22 on some of them, coincidentally, or I don't know. Just try to do your best to get as far as you can, but don't overdo it. Just do one of each first, and if you think that you're pretty close on one of them, you can just go ahead and try to do more. But yeah, that's how that one works. Now for the third one, what is that? Roll damage. Now this one's kinda weird. I don't like this one. I hate the Bishops because they get staggered quite a lot. The Eremites are kind of annoying. The other ones I don't mind so much. But yeah, sometimes it can be a trick to go to 18, save your burst, instead of going to 19 from 15 to 19. But yeah, that's how that one goes. Swell teams are not the greatest necessarily, but it's not only that Swell is better, it's also that characters that are Animo that are gonna be swelling, which is basically Skara, Xiao, maybe Heisu, stuff like that. Animo DPSs are gonna be doing more damage themselves on top of the extra EM they get. So it could be worth considering going for that, or you could just go for Arlecchino and Mavuka, to be honest, because they just work pretty well. Now I've done it on other accounts with other combinations. Hydro and Electro are, Cryo and Electro is something you may want to avoid a bit more if you do run into the V-Shaps, but it's not an issue if you manage to skip that. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just front-loaded damage with the highest investment you have on your own account, depending on what you have. So yeah, on to the next one. The fourth one is gonna be, what is that? When character receives healing, they get a 100% attack for 8 seconds, which is pretty cool. Now, most of basically every single one of these is gonna have Bennett. Bennett doesn't heal above 70%, but if you are taking damage and still healing, this can be pretty cool. Last 8 seconds either way. With Arlecchino it's a bit weird because you don't really want to waste time using the burst, but you also kinda want to heal for that extra attack. So I'm not sure how worth it is to do the burst. I usually just use it to stay alive, but in this case it may be a bit different. If you have Bond of Life, you also get an extra 100% attack, so that would be 200% attack, which is crazy for Arlecchino. So yeah, pretty interesting one. Now when it comes to enemies, the first combination from 15 is pretty simple, and once you go right to 19, you got the Fontaine, this Fontaine duo, the operatives or whatever they called. You can cheese it, you can use Jin and Kazu, maybe someone else, to just and grab them and have them die from fall damage, which is pretty funny. I haven't really mastered that at all, haven't really tried it. It's definitely something you can do. Now, a team I wasn't expecting that works pretty well, that I wasn't expecting to do so, is Bennett, Arlecchino, Zhongli, Kazu. Usually you wouldn't have those two together because of their double resistance shred, having diminution returns and all that. But it actually works pretty well on these ones because you can group them up really well with Kazu, and having the shields can be really comfy. Now that's just an idea for this one and even the next one, given that you can rely so much on Arlecchino's damage. Obviously that is gonna be different if you don't have Arlecchino, but just as an example. You could try to just have any team that can beat the first wave of the construction mechas as quick as possible, or above the 20 seconds, while trying to save some energy and having someone like Jin or Kazu on that one. You can probably find some videos on Bilibili or YouTube of some people doing that, if you want to practice that and want to put all of the extra time to do that, in case that's the one you are missing. No, so that's it for that one. You can just use any attack scaling characters and that are gonna get healed at some point to benefit from that extra attack, but it's not, that buff is not gonna make a character that wouldn't perform as well shine on this floor per se. So yeah, just take that into account. Now for the last floor, this one's a bit easier for the most part. Night Salt Burst. Whenever you use a Night Salt Burst, you cannot take it like as a Bennett for all Natlan characters. You use the burst on anyone and you get a buff for HP, attack, defense, and even EM, which is pretty cool. It stacks up to 3 times and it lasts 20 seconds. I'm not entirely sure if you can do it, if you can pre-fire that burst and have it count for these stacks, because there's not really an indication of whenever you're getting these buffs on screen, which is another thing that I wish they did better. But if you have Shiloh, if you have Silali, anything like that, it's gonna work pretty well. Even Kachina, Ororon works pretty well too here. So you can just get all of those extra buffs. For element restrictions, there's not many, except for the Hydro Hilichol rogues thingies. Those are pretty annoying because of the grouping and Hydro and animal resistance, so you may want to avoid that a bit more. and especially given how popular Hydro is. Ideally you would just skip them, but those are the ones that you see at floor 19, so you may want to go from 18 to 20 instead if that's possible for you. So yeah, that's how you would go about that one. Now it would have been fine if they added trial characters. That would have solved it. That would have done it, that's it. Which is something they've done many times in the past. And I get it. They want us to use our own characters, and if they just leave it all up to the trial characters, well, it's not gonna be so nice. But they could just make them pretty underwhelming and make us compensate with the other ones. I mean, they are trial characters, those are always underwhelming. They're like 57 crit rate to 91 crit damage all the time. So I feel like they could have just done that. Like maybe for the last one, giving us just Shilonen would have been a pretty nice one. Like I'm not telling them to just add all of the Natlan characters on every single one of them. On this one, yeah, I mean, kinda has to be Arlecchino, doesn't it? Like, oh, there's others like Loren who can have Bond of Life and all that. It just and hey, don't get me wrong, she can work great on this one, but not as well as others, let's say, from my experience. On the third one, I guess Yume Mizuki could have been funny for them to give us Yume Mizuki, and I've done a few runs with Yume and swell focus teams, and sure, they can clear, but they're not gonna be as good as the other ones, even with the huge buffs they get. At least it doesn't seem like it, that's for sure. Still fine, and in a fun way of trying them. Yeah, what else? On the second floor, I guess a Bennett. Everybody has a Bennett. I don't know. I feel like they could have given us some more trial characters, something to try in a slightly different way. Chaska wasn't bad either, but for the most part we have two targets, and she's better against single target, so not ideal, but you can definitely make it work. With a good Chaska, I've had some really good clears though. So yeah, that's how this one went. Don't be discouraged if you cannot beat it. It's totally normal. Doesn't matter how good your account is, because this is a pretty niche one. Now, it's true that they may release more events like this, and this kinda changes our perspective on things, and maybe it makes you pull for something that you wouldn't have pulled otherwise. But hey, at the end of the day, if that's what makes you happier, that is fine. I wouldn't want anyone to go out of their way to pull for someone just for potentially getting a name card for a maybe they release an event that does this. Unless that's what you want to do, just to have everything covered and have like certain things and themes that can do pretty well for you. Because who knows, maybe Mabuka sucks for the next event they do like this, if they ever do one. Maybe Mabuka sucks, maybe DPS Sucrose is the meta on the next one. Like, it could be anything, for all we know. So I wouldn't put all my chips on anything. One thing that I do like is that they didn't release this event at the same time as Silali and Mabuka, at the same time as their release, because that would have been kind of suspicious. That kind of would have been like, oh yeah, you cannot do it? Oh yeah, just pull for us. You cannot pull for them anymore. You could pull for Furina, and we technically would have been able to pull for Yumi Mizuki, but that wouldn't have changed anything. So yeah, sure, Furina can work on some of these ones and help a little bit, but she's a really nice character, but not so much for this event. Doesn't help so much for this one. For some it may make the difference, but you know, it's not that big a deal. So yeah, that's basically that. I would have liked it for them to add either trial characters to reduce their requirements, or some of the other things I've been saying, because that was a lot already. I've been yapping for quite some time. There's a lot of mixed opinions, and I can definitely get why people were getting upset again. I get it, and I hope Genshin kinda takes our advice in any way, or just listens to feedback and they act accordingly. Most of the people don't really have the... More people than I thought have been able to get the name cards. Especially after the previous banners we've had with Mobikar, like, you know, because more people have been pulling recently. But even then, many of them are gonna miss out, and I kinda feel bad for that. If they miss out on something that you can just grind or even swipe for. But a name card is not the same. Now, many people are not gonna care. I've been a name card enthusiast for some time, doing those funny name card layouts and whatnot. But yeah, this is good, but it's not good, you know. This event is something I really like and something I really don't like. I think Genshin you can do better. But this is nice in a way, you know. And I do love that they are giving us name cards. I want different colors and different name cards for some fun combos. So keep doing that, perhaps. It's not like you're gonna listen to me, but I thought I would talk about it. No, I just wanted to get the word out there. Maybe some quick advice and some ideas of how this could have been better for just Genshin to potentially do that in the future. And I'm gonna stop repeating myself. I think that's it. Thank you. Stay milky.